ni sawa kusema hauko sawa.
Different aspects of it.
Sasa ongea. Hivyo tu wenye umesema, sasa sema na mic.
So what is mental health? I believe most of us in different aspects tunatend kuwa na so many things that happen in our lives. Na these things that happen to our lives ni very hard for us to explain. Na some of these things zinaeka mtu chini. They can easily put you down for days, weeks, months. And you find yourself confined in a room, in a dark place. It's like you're in a dark room looking for a black cat and you can't explain it. So mental health, nowadays people talk about depression, anxiety, but kuna different forms zenye zinaweza kuwa attributed to mental health. In my perspective, I think mental health is everything around you yenye na affect physically, mentally, and emotionally. These are the things that can easily make you, the things that can make the better version of yourself shine. Believe you too, your state of health mentally can be questionable. So, as a junior, mnafilaje about mental health and what it means to all of us?
I think health is basically when you look at the totality of the wellness of a human being. Because someone will say, are you well in terms of, are you healthy? And mostly they look at, are your hands functioning? Are your legs functioning okay? Is your heart beating at the right rate? But most of the time, we omit one part of our body. That is the mind. And I believe, reason being that as human beings, we sometimes don't understand how our minds work. And therefore, because we don't understand it, it's become some kind of like a mystery. So to me, I think there's this aspect about us that we've left out. Our mind, our soul, our spirit, our mind. And since most of the time we've not so much interacted with maybe the medication or the prescriptions that come when someone says I'm not healthy in terms of my mind, it becomes something we don't understand. So most of the time we put it on the sidelines. And of course, again, in this space, there's been that stereotype of how mental health or mental unwellness manifests. So, like for instance, if I have a tummy that is paining, najua nitainama na what I'll need is maybe some medicine that understand. But the way mental unwellness ina manifest, tunaona hapana hii ni kitu hatujazoea, understand? So we've kind of like stereotyped it. But to me, I think everything that we are comes from the brain. Yeah. So the moment we are able to understand how the brain works and how things are as far as our mind is, as far as our spirit is. So to me is how balanced is your spirit, is your soul, is your mind. And of course, this also contributes to a very great extent of how an entire whole human being is healthy. Yeah.
That's interesting because as Masamba was talking, there's a thought that came to my mind. There's at the time where we were facilitators, there was this guy who came. He was a doctor, and he was talking about the origin of the word disease. Now, for a lot of people in the world right now, when you hear disease, your mind is like, that's a bad thing. You hear disease, you're like, hey, COVID. You're like, it's something negative. It's something so bad. the way he explained it, he said the word itself comes from two words put together. Dis-ease. Like it's like when your body is not the way it's supposed to be. And so it's when you're in a state that you're not at ease. So that could be anything. Like if because mental health, like, and mental unhealth is basically when your mind is not chemically balanced. So your mind is not at ease. When you have a flu, it's like when your body that your body is not balanced. That's why you feel a certain type of way. That's why you go to a doctor and you get checked. And there's the same way there's a doctor for your eyes, there's a doctor for your teeth. There's the same way there's a doctor for your mind. Right? And all of it starts, and for me personally, all of it starts with like a self-care in the way that you know yourself, you understand yourself, but you also love yourself. And I think that's where, for me, that's a basis of mental health and like mental stability, is when you understand, like for me, I understand that I was like the way I was created. I am a three-part being. I am mind, body, and soul. All those three make up me. I can't, like, my body is not the only thing that's me. All those three, mind, body, and soul, make up Devo. So I have to take care of all three for me to be okay.
I'd say for me, mental health is probably one of the areas that is widely not looked upon in the African society. You would mention mental health somewhere. Like I've had a conversation about making a movie about mental health. I'm a filmmaker, so, and the person who is very experienced told me that the way people understand mental health in our country is some crazy guy who is picking up rubbish on the side of the road, or the guys at Mathare Hospital. But in reality, mental health isn't that. Like, if you're not well mentally, it doesn't mean that you have to be quote unquote crazy, or as they put it, mwendo wazimu, which is not the correct way to refer to it. But mental health is just basically that point in life where you're not well. You're it might be your physical, it might be your emotional, but generally in your normal functioning you can't function normally, and you can't like pinpoint it is my head that's aching, but it's just something that you basically even probably at times can't put words to. So yeah.
Kizungu ni mingi. But when I think about mental health, a variable amount of things come to mind. Where that, as Masa said, it's a balance. So is where your balance is says your state of being. No, if you're too sad, then of course there's your balance in your mental health is really laying on one side or one end, of which, of course, too much of anything is really poisonous to yourself. And at the other, on the other spectrum, of course, Pia, don't trust a laughing man. The other end, when you're, of course, over happy all the time, of course, there's also a part or a bit of concern. So I think mental health is a very fine line. It's really hard to underline some of the causes and also define some of these areas, because as men, or even men in the society, expressing yourself is really hard. Of course, from our, I don't know about you guys, but like my dad, him saying aski vizuri is the end of the world. No. So us learning from our predecessors how expressing themselves is really hard, also lays upon us. So unajiambia, hey man, mzee hajasema ni mgonjwa for the last years of my life. So mi nikisema mi ni mgonjwa, you know, I look like a weakling, and yet mzee amevunjika mguu but still ameng'ang'ana, amesema I'm fine, I can walk till Narok, you know. So mental health, I think it's just a balance of your mind and finding a way when, just like our body, when your body is too acidic, you find your way to, or you take some, what's it called, something basic to actually balance your body levels. So I think the mind should be the same kind of situation.
So like that's like we all agree that there's like mental health and balance. There's a across the board we all think mental health and balance are a thing. Like those two are not like mutually exclusive. They have to exist in the same plane. So like when you're not balanced, when you feel like you're not balanced, do you tell people, or like do you just stay with it and try to balance it yourself? You might say something to the wrong person and then end up being the mfano kwa sentensi. So like do you actually have someone that you go to, or have you, like, for example, for me, for a very long time I was like, if I have problems, they're my problems, I will deal with them, right? And I ended up in a space where I couldn't share, and I couldn't even deal with my own problems anymore. So I think for me personally, what really helped was having a group, like joining the Kenyan Boys Choir. Yes, that was great. But then even within the choir itself, like Wilbur and Rags have been immense in like the last few years for me, like someone that you can actually tell something with no fear of judgment. And then like to think that it took me about like 14 years for me to go like, I can actually trust these two and tell them my problems. That was rough. That was rough. So like for anyone else, do you tell people, like, do you have someone to tell like when you're not okay? Ama unakaa tu nayo?
It's hard sharing because most often you are afraid of being judged or being mistaken, and also being a laughing stock. Because as a man in society, they perceive you differently. Even just growing up as a boy, they perceive you differently. First and foremost, they say that you're already circumcised. You went through the pain. That was a transition of you moving from a boy to a man. When you are a boy, you could easily cry, and your mom or your dad would easily support you at that end. Now you're a man. If anything happens to you, wanasema you have to jikakamua. You're like, what does that mean? Na jikakamua to what extent? Because you don't know what the limit is that you can push yourself without knowing if you're doing or causing harm to yourself. And you don't know who to tell that you're going through A, B, C, D. Because your A might not be anything to anybody. Even your B situation might not be anything to anybody. But then this is a real situation to you. You're very afraid of how they'll perceive it. You're very skeptical. You're like, will I be helped? Will somebody hear me out? Or will I just be a laughing stock and be judged for not embracing and bracing it through? So often you sit and you internalize it alone. And when you internalize it alone, it eats you up. Because you don't know to what extent am I damaging myself, or am I fixing the situation by being quiet? That's why you find the levels of suicide going up in this country, because people are afraid of sharing. Because the moment you share, somebody might think you're a joker. the moment you share, somebody might think this person doesn't really know what they're talking about. Maybe they just need to figure out, they just need to go out and play. Maybe just walk in the sun, you'll be okay. But yeah, touch some grass. It's about nature. You go out there, for those who work and for those who don't have jobs and have families, they go out there, they look for jobs. They come back at home. Their family is looking at them, staring at them in the eyes. They're like, what did you get us today? And you find so many of the men who go out, come back empty-handed, don't have an answer to what did you get us today. They don't know how to move and even to share with their better halves or partners or wives that I went out and ABCD didn't happen. But here I am trying to tell you that tomorrow will be better. But you have to be in a quiet space because you don't know who will support you. If you reach out to your boys club, they'll be like, come out Friday for drinks. Like, can you just send me that money? Because I need it. And we live in a society where people wouldn't send you that money. They'll either spoil you with drinks rather than send you that money in need. And that really breaks people. So it's very hard to look for somebody to share all this with. But one thing that I love the space that I've been in the choir is it's like a brotherhood. We come together, share whatever we feel. If we have to walk all of us home, we will, so that we support you in one way or another. If it's a conversational bit of it, we shall do that. We'll talk and talk and talk. And if we need answers, hopefully we'll get you the answers. Yeah, so it is a difficult stage, I'd say, sharing, yes.
I'd say for me, some time back looking at the situation, I found it really difficult to open up and share because I'd say the societal norms that we've been exposed to from a young age is that mwanaume ni kujikakamua, like ujikaze and then ukamue wengine amebaki zaidi, you know. And so you find it very difficult to even share your problems. But some time back, I remember I was pushed to the edge, and a friend of mine, his name is Ian, really good brother, and I went to him and I was like, hey, this is what I'm going through. And yeah, I was like, if you're going to judge me, that's cool, but I just can't keep it inside anymore. But then he just came out and was like, can you imagine? I have gone through that as well. And I think the most encouraging bit of it was like, he was like, yeah, we'll walk together. We'll walk together till the end. And I think that was quite affirming for me in that I am not alone in this journey, and it is okay to share. It is okay not to be okay, but do not stay in that situation. Do not make that situation like you and the situation should not get attached. Like it is okay to be in a certain situation, but it is not okay to claim it and stay in there. Yeah, it's like, and to use it as a crutch. And I think something else is that guys also use mental health as a crutch these days, because there's some certain mental health situations that people go through. They tend to use them. Now I can't work because of this. I cannot perform like I treated you that way because of my mental health disorder, and I think that is as well not right. So yeah, I think yes, go through the situation, but do not get stuck in it. It's like when a baby is wearing diapers, and yeah, what is the most, they defecate inside the diapers.
Encyclopedia before
The parent or the mother won't like just let the child sit in that discomfort because you'd even feel like the child, and then you'd hear the mom say ni namchoma. And I'd say it is the same for us as we go through life. It is okay to be in that situation, but it is not okay to stay in that situation. Yeah.
we are in a space as Kenyans and South Africans where, as one of us mentioned, we have moved so fast into systems that maybe did not work for us, because initially society was set in such a way that things worked so well. You'd find that there's a time, if you're a boy, you're supposed to be doing this, you're supposed to be doing this. There were systems that used to check each and every one of us. For instance, if maybe you someone comes and says kuna mahindi yangu sioni hapa, people will start trailing who passed through this place at this particular time, so that they correct that in good time. But now in the system that we live in, you find that we changed completely. We are looking for education, we are looking for promotions, we are looking for, and everyone has forgotten about the well-being of the society. And therefore, in that space, there are some things that, as I mentioned, that have been still stigmatized, and therefore it becomes very difficult for a man to actually speak out and say, because you find that during those times there were systems where I could go and speak, because they will tell me, hey, we found you with this mzigo that has mahindi inside. Does it belong to you? Then I'll say no. So why are you getting stuff that is not yours? Then I'll give them the reason. Yeah. So you find that by me giving the reason, actually I'm opening up to my fellow men. Yeah. But here we are in a system where there is no space where I can feel comfortable to speak out that this is what's going on in my life. And then again, you look around and you say, nikiambi home say, maybe sitapata ile kitu exactly sitapata ile response nataka. And then of course again we are in a space where you will be the talk of the town, and then again here you are a man, the ego of a man, you need to remain like that strong man. So for me, I'm an introvert. I rarely talk about what is going on in my life. I keep it to myself in very many instances. And then again, I have this problem. I am the firstborn in the family. So all eyes are on you. So how will you stand up and say to your younger siblings or to your friends and tell them, hey, niaje ni hivi? So and then there's that mentality that they are looking up to me. It's like I'm the one that they hope that with me doing these things will be okay. So if I tell them I'm not okay, it's like their world is crumbling. Yeah. So I most of the time keep to myself, but I have a very good friend of mine. He's called Dr. Omondi. It's not like I go to him and tell him what is going on, but through our conversations, you find that I'll find myself saying this and find myself opening up. And then again, something that has really helped me a lot is just talking and being in spaces where I can converse with people. Because as one of us mentioned, one thing that will help you a lot is hearing what is happening in other people's lives. Because most of the time when things happen to us, we find like we kind of make ourselves the victims of everything and think that, hey, mimi peke yake ndo nalanga njaa hii dunia. That's what you think. But then when you're in a space where unasema, hey, unajua mimi wiki 3 sijakula, sema wa mimi hilo lunch sikukula, kumbe mimi niko better. Understand? So you're in a space where you can talk and just have conversations. You find that there's a healing process. Yeah, like what Hinga has mentioned. When you go to someone and like I remember when I lost my dad, I went to my friend and we started talking. I remember I was looking for some financial assistance, and I was saying, hey, mimi kitu me happen. Oh, father amekufa, sasa mimi ndo natafuta pesa peke yangu. Then he told me, no, I was also in the same space. When that happened, I had to look for some financial assistance. Then I said, wow, kumbe hii kitu si mimi peke yangu. It gives you strength. And then when you see him at that space, he's not like he's dying or I mean, his things are crumbling in his life. He's strong and standing. It gives you that encouragement that If he went through this and he's strong and up, then it means also, yes, I'm in the same situation, but at least I can also go through it and weather the storm. Yeah.
I think I'd like to expound that. One big situation I've found myself, and I think most men are in such situations, there's a time you just hit like dead end. No, then sasa unaanza kuji isolate. I think our biggest problem is isolation. And when you start isolating, it's now you start creating the mind that mimi peke yangu niko na hii shida. I cannot come out of this. And you start heaping situations over situations, and you find yourself drowning in sand. See? And once you start reaching out and moving out and conversing with people, like, I had a conversation with Masa, and Wilbur was there. I was like, hey, I'm going through this. Then Masa ananiambia, wewe wacha. Mimi sasa ilinifanyikia hivi. I was like, hata mimi niko sawa. I'm like, okay, it's not this bad as I'm making it seem. See, also I have my friend Curtis Pia. Like, kuna time tunaongea we laugh at situations, nasema yani, like last year nilikuwa na shida, but now you can laugh about it because you've taken that step forward and initiated a talk. And when you umesema Masa, ukiwa peke yako, you can't have a conversation alone. When you hear someone else, and like this school of thought where like there are different animals in a class. Kuna samaki, kuna tiger, kuna cheetah, kuna monkey, and there's an elephant. And all of them are asked to climb up a tree. And it's an exam. Of course, there will be different results. And so is life. You can be good at one thing, and I'll be good in another. And just sparking a conversation will trigger a lot of instances where you would solve my issue, not by necessarily talking about it, but you'll create that thought process where I can actually start functioning and asking myself questions towards my problems. And I think after COVID, a lot of things have changed. I think one of the ways I used to like sort my stress out nikiwa mtoini, najua naenda kucheza ball leo. Alafu ule msenda pata wa kwanza, yani you go home limping, but najua I'm fine. Yani umetoa that pent up energy, umetoa mali. Now when you go home, you start afresh. And after COVID, people now started isolating a lot. One, it was not due to anyone's wanting, but now that, as you've seen, a lot of mental cases have risen. And I think it was an issue that needed to be addressed, but actually with COVID, now it's doubled up and has been an issue now to address. So I think, one, as men, we need to stop being alone. That's a very big factor. Pali, you start now, there's a saying that you are your best critic and your worst critic. So at this time, ukiwa peke yako, you are your worst critic because you unaona hapa hakuna njia mbele and I am failing. So I think not isolating yourself would be one of the biggest situation. I know, like, hata kama wewe ni introvert, you need to move out of that space. You need to move out of your comfort zone. You see what people are doing out there, and it might spark something in your life that you never know. You never know it will lead you to.
Yeah, I actually agree with all of you. And the other thing that I just like popped into my mind, I don't know why I didn't even mention this before. Seeking professional help is not a bad thing, to be honest. I don't think it's a bad thing. Because for me, for the last, maybe 4 or 5 months, I have been seeing a therapist. And it's like, so where I work, we have unlimited therapy sessions. Like you can just talk to anyone. And at first I was like,
Kuna potential. Can I join the company? but I think something else is therapy is expensive.
yes, that's the thing. So like before, I would never have thought about therapy because therapy is expensive. So when the company that I work for, they introduced unlimited therapy sessions for the wellness of their team members, because one of the things that are the core values of the company is wellness. So all 8 dimensions, and mental wellness is a huge part of that. I was like, one day I was feeling sad and I was like, you know what? Like, what could it hurt? So like it's free. Like I'm not paying for anything. So I went on to that site. It's called Wazi. It's a really good site. So they have different different professionals for different things. And so I was like, I just like I want to pick. I was like, I want to pick someone who would be the opposite of me. And so I went there. I was like, oh, 22 years experience. This person. I was like, this one is someone who has experience, but is the oldest person there, who probably I feel like she's a woman and she's old. And I'm like, this one, if I were to share my problems, this person wouldn't be able to even relate, because I'm probably half their age and I am a man, and I don't think we'd be able to understand each other. Because in my mind, I was like, if I pick the toughest one to connect and it does actually work, then this thing is actually real. Then therapy actually works. I have been doing like I started off once, and then I was just doing weekly sessions. It was like weekly sessions, and now to the point that I used to be afraid to talk about me going for therapy. It was like, oh, do you see a therapist? No. But now I'm just like, yo guys, therapy is good. Like even as a Christian, theology and therapy. Like you can read the Bible, you can like pray and everything, but therapy is a really good thing, because especially like for Christians, there's this aspect or like area that is so gray in what do you do when you're in trouble? What do you do when you have problems? And then you go to someone and the pastor's gonna tell you, no, you just pray about it and we'll pray for you. And you're like, you're going to pray about it and you're going to pray for me, na sijakula. You're going to pray about it and pray for me, kiatu yangu soli inatokana na unaendesha gari. So like you might have all the faith in the world, but what you see with your eyes, because like you believe in God and you believe God will come through for you, but what you see with your eyes is you're walking, you're like the person who's telling you they'll pray for you is driving. You're suffering. When you have problems, you go to them, they tell you, we'll pray for you. But when they have problems, they come to you and you donate. And it's called an offering, right? So it's like, and you're there like, hey, like, does God even exist? Because you're in that space where now you've attached your faith to the person who's preaching to you so much that when they go wrong, it affects your faith. It shakes the things that you believe in. And so therapy is a really good thing because it helped me to dissociate, and to dissociate in a sense of like, I started putting boundaries in spaces in my life and not allowing things to mix in based on what I was feeling. Basically what I was doing was I was projecting. So you're projecting an aspect of your life onto someone else because you went to your pastor and they told you we're going to pray for you. You're like, so now you're projecting to them. And it like when you start to now understand, and when I started to now understand the different aspects and different sides, it's done wonders for me. Like I don't even feel overwhelmed at work. That's how good it's been. Like I come to work and I'm like, I signed up for this. These are the tasks that I'm supposed to do. I have the capacity to do them. Then I can actually go to the Bible and be like, oh, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Cool, I can do this job. Like allowing myself to be open to the point where I found out about myself. And professional help is
Which makes me come to this question. How does it feel? You've been to therapy, but before therapy, how would you easily feel taking a situation and sharing it with somebody? Was it easier? Or did you feel judged? How was it?
So basically, like in my family, I'm the only boy. So I have two older sisters, and my dad passed away when I was 5 years old. It was like close to 30 years ago now, and I'm the last born. But the weirdest thing is, you would think that someone who's been raised in a home, like a boy who's been raised in a home where it's only women, would be more open to sharing their emotions and feelings. But it's, for me, it's the opposite, because my mom would always say, no, mwanaume hafai kufanya hivyo. So what I learned about being a man when I was growing up was from the things that my mom told me not to do. So even when it came to like when COVID hit and I lost my job, and I was there like, okay, I don't provide anymore. What can I do? My sister said something. It was like, si uende utuoshe vyombo, hiyo tu ndo kenye unaweza tukufanyia. That thing irked me. Like I was so livid. I was angry. Nilikuwa nivunje vyombo zote kwa hiyo nyumba. Tuone nani ataosha nini. It is like, ni hiyo tu ndo kenye naweza fanya. Like, so like I know she meant it. She didn't mean to make me feel that way, but it made me feel like I can no longer provide. And when you've lived in a home where everything you're told is, no, a man should, a man is supposed to, a man does not do, like I haven't actually seen a man grow up. I haven't been in that like that space. The only memories I have of my dad are like few and far between. So I don't really know it. I didn't grow up with a man in the home. So I had a very disjointed idea of what it meant. And so when I joined the choir, I was like, okay, so now I have brothers. So this feels different. I was like, this feels actually different. And then, so I started to get to a point where I was like, okay, I can actually share my problems. Like, it's not a bad thing to share your issues. You can now. And to the point that I've worked through it on that way, to now I even share with my family with that I was like, those are the last people I'm going to tell my problems. Like my mom, my sisters will only know that I'm a happy person and all I do is smile and make jokes. But nowadays, like my mom will call me and we'll start share, like we're trading problems, like we're playing tennis. It's like, mi niko na hii shida, pia mimi niko na hii pia, na nasikia vibaya. Utakuja unione, ndakuja nikuambie mashida zangu zote. Like it's made my relationship with my family even better. Yeah. Before I didn't want to, but now I'll tell anyone anything.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So I'm thinking in terms of even the rest of us. How has it been for us trying to share your perspective or your situation with somebody else? How did they take it, or how was it for you just to open up to somebody? Because often you tend to be scared. You don't know if whatever you're stating is right, if it will settle well with this person. And it becomes a challenge because first you're sharing something which is personal, which is so personal, and I'd say in some way tormenting you. But you don't know how this other person will take it. And you're afraid of being judged or taken the wrong way. And you don't know their response. So you are there wondering, how will this person take this information? Will they give me the feedback that I want? Or just like a settler, they'll be like, you just go deal with it. After all, you're a man. And you'll find most of us never share. And as much as it's difficult, I believe most of us feel it's not okay to share. Whereas it's very okay to share. Some of us feel it's not okay to be in the situation that we are in at that moment. Whereas at times it's okay to be in that situation. Because these situations make us or break us. But at the end of the day, I believe there is a lesson. If we decide to share, we can easily learn and come out of it. So I don't know what all of us think about it.
I'd like to share an experience I had nikiwa jikoni. I used to be a chef, and this was yeah, you see what you were just talking about.
Judged.
But it was a situation where I found it was very serious for me. So in our line of work, being a chef, after you prepare the meals, you actually go help serve. So I was working at this specific resort in Naivasha, and it was lunchtime. Tulikuwa tuna serve now wageni. So at this time we have what we call serving dishes or chafing dishes, and they usually have some moto kuchini. No, it's either spirit or gel. So apparently this time this guy was filling them. So before you fill them, you have to actually seal the top to make sure there's no air flowing in, so that it actually suffocates the fire and it dies off. So now this guy who was actually filling them was very absent-minded. Now, it was not a very big distance, kami and Devo. So mi nimemwona nayo nikasonga, just took a step kando nikajoe. Ini moto yamba. So apparently this guy, being absent-minded, he didn't shut the lid off. So it wasn't spirit. Thank God, ilikuwa gel. So now the container had fire. And now the gel that's flammable, alikuwa anamwagia ndani, and it was still hot. So in a span of 3 seconds, the bottle blew up, and now the gel that was inside was on fire, and it spread everywhere. So it spread over my coat. So coat yangu ilikuwa na moto. My guy, you've ever had of flashbacks? Unaona nafikiria when ulikuwa unaishi maisha yako, how you were a kid? It literally happened because I was on fire. You don't know what to do. You don't know if it's inside your coat. Unasikia tu joto. That's the bad thing na spirits or any flammable gels, that you'll feel hot, you don't see it,
But you don't see the flame.
Hey man, nikakimbia out of there. Even the Wagenis laughed, but for me, my life is
Yeah, my life is at risk.
So after that incident, I was told to take some time off, cool off. And the first people I called, because they also have been in that line of work, are my parents. I called dad and hey dad, hey man, Leo, there's this guy, just as I explained to you then, my jacket caught on fire and it really stressed me out. Na sijui what to do next. Kasema wewe ni mwanaume bana, hiyo ni kitu kidogo. I'm like, my life was just about to go and you're telling me this is kitu kidogo. Nikakata simu. The next person, my mom. Hey mom, hii imenifanya. Hii ni hali ya kazi chalo. I'm like, these are people you depend on as your parents. Yeah. So, like being as Masa said, like being the firstborn, you're like, hey sasa, how ni watu nataka kuambia shida zangu.
And if for them it's a big issue, then what of people who you're not related to?
Exactly. Now it minimizes your esteem of actually sharing your problems or what's really affecting you. Unajua saa zingine unafaa kuambia pole sana, like come let's talk about it, because for me that was a very fine line with my career. I was like kama hii ndo kitu kidogo kwa hii line no ile ngumu ndo kubwa sasa ile kubwa. And
but literally in the situation will go to from the frying pan to the fire.
Literally, and staki kwa na situation sema sasa ndo hii kitu kubwa mama. So I literally understand the situation where like you literally are afraid to share your problems because the person on the receiving end, labda because to be honest, my dad is a ninja man. Umse alikam home like kuna time tu si naonashindo dad hajakuja home leo amechelewa. Kumbe the guy alikuwa na bake, so my dad is also a pastry chef. So is my mom. So in that line of work, they are legends in that field. So apparently my dad was mixing things and apparently those big mixers, he put his hand in. Kumbe kidole imekatwa, hapo hivi ameenda akashonwa akarudi like nothing's happened, hata atuambii, si tunaona tu bandage and life goes on. Naelewa sasa, like who did my dad go and console in terms of that time of need? Because najua even though you've had a traumatic experience, you need someone or something to talk to or let out that. So now that I think about it, like I'm sure also my parents have had the same situation. Venye they don't have a way of expressing. Ama the way they express ni venye sisi hatuta.
Hataki.
Because how we process information is very different. Naona sasa mimi nikiangalia Masaa na shida zake, mimi najaribu kusolve, and in literal sense maybe he just wants someone to hear. And that brings me to the situation, unaona wale couples wanapigananga nje ama kwa bar ama nje, then when you step in wendo unapigwa. You know, they don't need your help, they are okay. So I think you know, I think life is the same situation where you don't necessarily need to step in and solve it. Maybe the person who's talking to you just needs you to listen. And I think as men, we need to create that space for each other. And for the last few months or the last year, I've had a very good stronghold in people I could confide in. Masa, Devo, Wilbur, Curtis there, of which should be out of your regular norm of the people you see every day. Unaona, so unajua familia, they might take things lightly, and for you it's life threatening. No, so yeah.
I think for me, it was when I shared when I shared with my friend, and he basically created that room for like it's okay, and I think that made me realize that it's okay to share, but as well even the aspect of who you're sharing with. You can't just tell everyone or every Tom, Dick, and Harry about what you're going through. I think it is basically you have to know who you're talking to, and yeah, I think for me, I feel more comfortable sharing what I feel, and yeah, it's just basically because of that one person telling me yes, we'll walk together, and yeah, we'll see the end of all this, and yeah, so and as well for myself also creating room for other people to come and talk to me. I think that as well helped me uh, think of how best I can do that as well. Because in as much as I'd want someone to run to, even for them when they're not feeling okay, I need to be that person for them. So yeah.
I think another angle I would like to bring in is what kind of friends do you have? Because I will know. I know I've been with Wilbur for a very long time, and all of us who are here, and I'll just look at you and say, "Hey, Appa, there's something that is amiss." So I think also it's not always about us, because sometimes it's very difficult for us to talk. But it's natural when someone reaches out to you and asks, "Hey, ni aje kunaendeleaje?" You'll find that yes, maybe you might not speak about it, but you might give a hint to them to know that this is what is going on in my life. So I'll also say, even for us who are friends to each other, let's also be on the lookout. You've not talked to Wilbur for the last 2 years or for the last 6 months. You've not, he's in your presence, you're talking, but he's completely absent-minded. Ask that question, niaje kunaendaje? You'd also be helping him to speak out. Yeah.
Thank you. So as we wind up, and just to bring this conversation to an end, but we'll keep it going because it's never an ending conversation. What are some of our takeaways, or something that you'd like men or boys growing up out there to understand whenever they have these issues prop up as we proceed.
I think the most important thing is just as I mentioned, when I come to you and tell you naumwana kichwa, the first question utaniambia umekunywa panadol, umekunywa maji, ulilala vizuri, understand? Already right there you're offering me solutions, yeah, or just say pole or something like that. It is okay not to be okay. It is part of life. Yeah, it's like finding a driver shouting at the tire that is deflated, and yet he has a spare wheel in his boot. The most natural thing that such a driver will do is go to the boot, get the spare wheel, and change the spare wheel. So I think it's not okay for us to kind of say, uzi mwanaume, ujamaa hajui kuhandle shida zake. Understand? Let's not create such kind of a situation, especially when someone is not okay. Let everyone feel that it is okay for me not to be okay, and so that they will be able to say, by the way, kama siko sawa, I can actually speak out about it. Yeah, and I think that's a point that as a society we need to get to, where we give everyone an ear. As Rags has mentioned, it's not a matter of like I want help in kind. I just want to speak to someone so that they know that this is what I'm going through. So I think what every man, every boy out there should know is that it is okay not to be okay, and it's okay to say that you're not okay. Yeah.
I think very powerful words over there. It's okay not to be okay. As well, I'd say in the story, you are not a victim, neither are you a perpetrator. You are the story. So whatever happens, the story has to go on. So even when you feel like this one has come to an end, it is not like the end. You are neither the victim nor are you the perpetrator. You are the story. So one way or another, keep moving, keep going. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think just in the same breath as what Hinga has said, it's like you go through a storm. It's not like because now it's raining, we're no longer going to live. Like the rain will pass and you're still there, right? If you go to sleep and you have nightmares, you're going to sleep the next night. Like the fear of bad dreams is not going to keep you from sleeping. Bad dreams will happen. You will go through these situations, but that's the whole point of it. You will go through them. That means that you're the constant. The situations, the problems, everything that you're dealing with will pass. This too shall pass, and it will leave you. You're going to be a constant. So don't think that because you are suffering that it is over. Don't think that it's over. You're way stronger than that problem. You're way stronger than it. It might seem like it's bigger than you, but you're way stronger than the problem.
I'd like to emphasize something Hinga said. The word history also is two words. It's his story. So now it's your story. How do you want your story to proceed on? Also, another thing I'd like to add, no one knows how this world is going. No one has the manual or script. So everyone is living off a whim, even at the moment. So don't stress yourself over something that you have no control over. No one is perfect. We are all taking a stride towards a positive direction. It's where you want to go and where you want to be, I think. So just having or creating a safe mental space for yourself to actually know what to do when bad times comes or bad days comes. As Devo said, it's never sunny days. There'll also be rainy days and thunderstorms. So you'll never always be okay. So it's okay not to be okay.
Just to wind up, all of you have shared powerful sentiments. And I believe as men, we need to create a space, not only a space for us to talk, but we need to create a safe space that all of us can openly, without shame, can easily speak and air out matters that affect our lives, be it at a professional level, family level, individual level. These spaces and conversations will easily propel us forward. And if you feel that you're not being heard by somebody who you're sharing with, don't give up. Look for another person you can share. Devo here has talked about therapy. There are different ways you can easily seek therapy. And you never know. Maybe just you need somebody to share this story with, for somebody to hear and listen to you. You just need a listening ear for you to feel like somebody heard me. Somebody took their busy schedule and time out of their busy schedule to listen to me. And that is one thing that I find most of us are battling with, listening. So let's all be keen to listen to one another. Listen unjudgmentally. Listen cautiously. Listen keenly, tentatively, and listen not to provide a solution, but to be there to understand what this person is going through. Because it is okay not to be okay. And as men, we should embrace every situation with a positive mind, because better days are ahead of us. Thank you so much.
Hey, Baki, you usitoe. You are mpigi makofi Baki.